You are listening to a Blazing Caribou Studios production.
Great white sharks dive 4,000 feet, swim across the world. Damn, isn't that deep? 40 million years, and they haven't changed. Apex predator survival's the game. Ambush style is how they hunt. 7 rows of teeth, Lorenzini in the front. Oh, I love the great white shark. Their bellies are white and the rest is dark.
Hello and welcome back to the Varmints podcast, where every week we do a whole bunch of research to educate ourselves and you, the listener, on all things that creep, crawl, slither, fly, jump, hop, and swim on this planet, one animal at a time. My name's Paul, I'm your co-host, and I am not an animal expert, and I am not joined by Paul Wilk this week. Paul is doing great. He has got a lot of really good, positive changes coming his way in his life. They're all things that require his concentration and attention, and something had to give, and that something was the Varmints podcast, so I want to say that I really do appreciate his valuable contributions to the first 14 or so episodes of this podcast. This podcast really is what it is because of him and because of what he did, and more importantly, I get to call Paul a friend, and that really is the best part of all this. So I am sad that I don't get to make podcasts with Paul Wilk anymore, but the Varmints podcast is going to continue, and I am so happy to introduce you to my new co-host. She is an artist, she's a graphic designer, a gamer, and a self-described animal nut who lives in Denver, Colorado with her boyfriend and small menagerie of pets. She is smart and funny, and I am so excited to introduce you to Donna Hume. Donna!
Hi!
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Glad to have you.
I'm so excited. I'm like, ee!
Let's get started with the headlines.
This is Varmints Headline News with your anchorman, some guy named Paul.
Thank you, Matthew. The headline is, "This man immediately regretted jumping onto a dead whale being eaten by great white sharks." Australia is just, it's like the perfect blend of dangerous animals and crazy people, and it's just a gold mine for news stories. Harrison Williams of Quinns Rock, which is north of Perth, Australia, was videotaped jumping from his friend's boat and swimming across to the dead whale because one of his mates said it would be pretty funny to surf the whale. News footage showed several large great white sharks circling and feeding on the other side of the whale. The 26-year-old said that he knew that they were busy chomping on the whale, but he told 7 News he knew it was a stupid thing to do once he got on top of the whale. Even the parents of this man who jumped onto the whale circled by hungry sharks say their son is an idiot. Harrison had this to say.
Mum thinks I'm an idiot. Dad's not too proud either.
I'm going to keep that and just play that when people ask me what my parents think of the podcast. I'm just going to say,
Mum thinks I'm an idiot. Dad's not too proud either.
The crew on the Westpac Lifesaver helicopter snapped photographs yesterday of 2 huge sharks, one estimated to be about 18 feet long, feeding on that whale.
That's a big shark.
It's a big whale, too, and it wasn't like it was freshly dead, either. It was a big, rotten whale.
Yeah.
Like, who would jump on that?
I looked at the picture. I don't know, a kid. A dumb kid.
A dumb kid. Yeah, a 26-year-old.
Yes.
A 26-year-old Australian. There's your answer. What more reason do you need?
Australians are very adventurous, so, you know?
Adventurous or crazy.
I think maybe a little bit of both, but that's really funny.
Possibly drunk.
I would not be surprised if drugs and or alcohol figured into the scenario somehow. Oh my gosh.
So that leads into what animal we're talking about this week. What are we talking about?
We're talking about sharks.
Yes.
Which are like my favorite animal of the water.
When I asked you what animal you wanted to talk about for your first episode, you typed in sharks in all capital letters.
Sharks! That's because that's what you're supposed to say when you see sharks.
Let's learn about them.
The kingdom of animals is fascinating. Now I'm going to tell you about their behavior and living patterns. So come on.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
We are blathering about great white sharks this week. The great white shark is also known, I didn't know this, it was also known as the white pointer, the white shark, or white death, which that seems a little unnecessary.
Well, they can be pretty scary, so.
Yeah. They're not the biggest shark in the ocean. The basking shark and the whale shark are much bigger, but it's probably the most well-known shark. Everybody, I think, if they've seen a cartoon shark, they know what a great white shark looks like. Very large, torpedo-shaped, big mouth, lots of teeth. They can live in almost any coastal and offshore water that is between 54 and 75 degrees, but most of them kind of choose to hang out where there's a lot of prey, especially seals. So the denser populations are off the coast of California and South Africa, where the majority of great white shark research takes place.
Yep.
And probably the first thing you think of when you think of a shark is the teeth.
Great white shark teeth are pretty amazing. They're weird and they're neat. They can flex back and forth, and when one tooth rocks back, it makes the nearby teeth flex and move as well. Researchers have measured changes in the tooth positions of biting movements in white sharks and found that the teeth rotate inward by almost 16 degrees.
Wow.
And since they're filled with pressure and position sensing nerves, basically their teeth are like hundreds of sharp little fingers that they can use to explore the world. They use their teeth to check stuff out. In the same way that we use our hands. So if you see sharks biting at shark cages and stuff, usually they're actually going, what is that? Nom, nom, what is that? So it's possible that these sharks' teeth are so sensitive to pressure and texture that they can detect how much fat reserves are in their prey and then reject the ones that would result in a negative energy net gain, meaning most non-fatty items like humans and sea otters are like celery for them, and consuming them would take more effort than it's worth, which might be an explanation of why they spit people out a lot after they bite them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out so well for the people most of the time.
It's not great for the people, but, it's great for the shark. They're not that concerned, about the people. They're like, oh, I can't eat that. That would take way too much energy. And there's not many white sharks that are on diets, so.
No, they eat pretty much anything.
You've heard the urban legends of finding dead sharks with tires and Volkswagens in their bellies and stuff. Well, wouldn't they reject that based on the low fat content? That's all I'm saying.
You would think, right? They still find that stuff in sharks' stomachs, though.
But maybe that's tiger sharks, so I'm not sure, but I just thought that was pretty funny. It's a hypothesis. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily what's going on, but there you go. Their teeth are like their fingers, which is so strange.
That's really interesting. And I didn't know about, when you see a shark biting a cage with a person inside of it, the immediate thing you think is that shark is going "Rawr," and trying to get to the person inside the cage to eat him.
Right, and that's not it at all. They're just going, what is that? What is it? What is it? It feels like a non-food thing, maybe.
To me, whenever I heard somebody say that sharks can detect a single drop of blood in a large body of water, that always seemed like kind of an old wives' tale to me. It seemed like some sort of a myth or something until I did a little bit of research and found out that it's true, but it's dependent on a number of factors. First off, sharks have an extremely sensitive and keen and almost supernatural sense of smell. They have nostrils, but unlike our nostrils, they aren't used at all for breathing. That's what they have gills for. But their nostrils are aligned with specialized receptor cells that are used solely for smelling. So, so when water flows into their nostrils, those receptor cells are really, really sensitive, and they can detect minute chemical changes, which send signals to the olfactory bulb in their brain, and then those chemical changes are interpreted as smells. Now, here's what's really cool. Sharks smell in stereo. Like you said, their eyesight isn't that good. So they rely on their sense of smell to get to where their prey is. If they get a little more of that chemical change in one nostril, say in the right nostril, they'll turn to the right and move toward, and then keep reacting to where the smell is coming from. That's why sharks kind of zigzag a lot.
Oh, wow, that is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I like it.
And ocean water, even really deep ocean water, it's always moving in currents. Some really strong currents, some really weak currents, but it's always moving. So as soon as a drop of blood makes contact with a moving current, those tiny little molecules of blood that we can't even see start moving with the current. And the shark only really needs to detect a couple of molecules to get it moving towards the source. That's how sensitive their sense of smell is.
I wonder if that's how they locate shipwrecks and stuff so quickly.
That could be. I mean, great whites in particular, they can detect blood 3 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're in the ocean and you have a cut or you are the victim of a shipwreck and you're bleeding a little bit, you actually have a few minutes before sharks start moving your way, kind of depending on where the sharks are and how fast the current is moving. They have to be whatever the ocean equivalent of downwind is from the blood to detect it and then respond to it. So it's not like that as soon as one drop of blood hits the water, some great white shark on the other side of the ocean is instantly going to start swimming toward you.
Right. And they're not the ones that prey on shipwrecks that much anyway, so thank goodness.
Right, because
that shark would be the oceanic white tip. That's the guy you should worry about.
Oh, is that it?
Yep.
Because as we learned, people equal celery.
Yes, it's true. Unless you're dead, then it might be worth it.
Donna, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being people who can go to the moon and, make podcasts and stuff like that, how smart do you think the great white shark is? I'm
going to say 5 or 6. I mean, they're not solving puzzles of any kind, usually.
Right.
And but they're not, like, mindless killing machines either, so...
Yeah, and before I did the research, I was prepared to give them probably like a 2 or a 3. But I read this really interesting article that says that sharks have individual personalities, they socialize, they choose best friends, they create social networks, they can teach each other new tricks, they can be trained by humans to complete simple tasks even much more quickly than like rabbits or cats, and retain the knowledge for much longer. Yeah, so on a scale of 1 to 10, I was initially going to give them a 2 or 3, but I am going to be like you. I'm going to give them a 5.5.
They're right in the middle, so... I think you probably have to have a little bit more than just brute strength to be an apex predator. You kind of have to be pretty good at your job.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, but that's really cool.
We are going to talk about pop culture here in a minute, but first, this message.
From start to finish, The Twilight Zone remains one of the most compelling series in television history. In honor of the show, I, Brandon Cruz, and a variety of guests, both regular and special, watched the series from start to finish, and we discussed the characters, themes, and ideas Rod Serling brought to the screen. It's sometimes serious, it's sometimes humorous, but it's always interesting. Submitted for your approval, I present to you a Twilight Zone podcast.
And we're back. Hey, you know what? Me and Donna, we're just a couple of nerds just like you, and we really don't see animals up close and in person very often. So let's talk a little bit about where we see most of them on movies, TV, and video games. And we can't talk about great white sharks without talking about this.
Uh-oh.
It's ominous, right? You know what's coming.
Something scary. Oh, no. Uh-oh.
It's okay, Donna. It's okay. It's just a podcast.
Get out of the water!
That, of course, is the theme song from Jaws, the 1975 movie that was adapted from the novel written by Peter Benchley. It's the story of a great white shark that terrorizes a small resort town and the voyage of 3 men that are trying to kill it. It's one of those rare occasions where, if you haven't read the book yet, I'm not going to tell you not to read the book, but you're probably going to wind up liking the movie better. I know at least I did. I liked the movie far better than I liked the book. And that's because Peter Benchley himself was involved with the screenplay, writing the screenplay for the movie. And it was Steven Spielberg, right, that directed that movie?
Yes.
And they kind of worked together to kind of improve on what Peter Benchley wrote in the book. And even Peter Benchley himself agreed that the film was better than the book. He was not, however, involved in any of the film sequels. But one of the negative side effects of the film, Jaws, was that not only were people scared crapless about going in the ocean for a while, but the public opinion of shark conservation just took a nosedive. Like, people saw sharks as things that needed to be killed before they ate everybody. And so that was one of the regrets that Peter Benchley had about both the novel and the film. And in fact, a lot of the writing that he did in the last 10 years of his life were nonfiction works that were both about the ocean and about shark conservation.
So John Williams also did the theme for that movie, which people should know if they don't. And that's probably why it's so good, because he's really good at that sort of thing. Peter Benchley wrote a book called Shark Trouble in 2001 that I've read, and it's really good. I highly recommend that you should read it. In there, he talks about the writing of Jaws and how it came about. That's a pretty interesting story. We learn in that book that his father suggested the title, What's That Noshing on My Leg?
I like that.
They had a hard time figuring out a name for it, but yeah. But he spent a great deal of his life dealing with shark conservation and also shark education. Do you remember in the 70s and 80s he used to do a lot of American Sportsman and National Geographic shows where he'd go out and look at sharks and talk about them and stuff?
I do remember that.
He spent a lot of time scuba diving with various people all around the world, and one of the best stories in the book is one about he's taking a diving trip to dig around some cannons in Walker Key in the Bahamas. They were just going down there to see if this pile of cannons could indicate that there was a shipwreck nearby or if it was just a bunch of dumped cannons. So picture this beautiful Bermuda clear waters, gorgeous, those aqua clear waters, and like a big pile of cannons right in the middle. Okay, sure. and he has a couple of buddies with him, and one of them snorkeling near the surface. And so he has a clear view of the whole area. So he sees Peter Benchley digging down by this cannon pile down there, and he sees this great white shark coming along, just cruising along like a young male, 10 or 12 feet long. And Peter hadn't seen it, so he starts slapping the water and trying to warn Peter Benchley, and then it occurred to him, oh, I probably shouldn't call attention to myself. Don't! He swam like a rocket to get to the boat. Ah! So I think, if you don't mind, I'll just read the short paragraph where Peter Benchley talks about the encounter that followed.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is from Chapter 10 of Shark Trouble. We saw each other. Our eyes locked for perhaps a nanosecond, just long enough for my brain to register and recognize what my eyes were seeing, and for its brain to register, I guess, shock and surprise. I was paralyzed. The shark wasn't. It braked with its pectoral fins like a plane with its flaps down for landing, spun completely around in its own length, and vanished in a billowy cloud of brown which had exploded from its bowel. I was alone, kneeling on the bottom, stunned and breathless, and within a few seconds covered by a cloud of great white shark poop.
He scared the crap out of a great white shark.
He literally scared the crap out of a great white shark.
That is amazing.
Anyway, I highly recommend that book. It's called Shark Trouble. If you want to listen to an audio version, there's one on Audible that Peter Benchley reads himself, and it's really good.
Awesome. Do you know what the name of the mechanical shark in Jaws was?
No.
Bruce.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ah, that must be why they called him Bruce in Finding Nemo.
Yep. You want to play that clip?
Yes.
Here we go.
Right then, The meeting has officially come to order. Let us all say the pledge. I am a nice shark, not a mindless eating machine. If I am to change this image, I must first change myself. Fish are friends, not food.
I was wondering if we were supposed to say the pledge, but then I remembered I'm not a great white shark. So. Or not a shark of any kind.
I love that movie.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. And it's so inaccurate as far as nature is concerned.
It really is.
You just have to let it go because it's a cartoon. So
that's one of my favorite parts of that whole movie.
Yeah, I love that part. That's really fun. I love it when they bring the little friend. I brought a friend.
The little shivery friend.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay.
So, Donna.
Good. Yeah.
Great white sharks, are they friends or food?
Neither. I mean, you should, if you are an adventurous diver, I think, and you really want to dive with them, you certainly can take that opportunity, though you'll be quite lucky to find them. They're pretty vulnerable species, and they're less and less findable, I suppose. It's hard to locate them even for researchers, so...
Right.
Yeah, so it would be tough to be friends with a great white shark, and I don't think they really make friends with people. I don't even know if they make friends with other great whites, so...
Yeah, they're very shy.
You were saying that some sharks do make friends, but I think they're more of a solo predator, and they don't seem to... Of course, they eat in groups, so maybe they're socializing then. Maybe a whale carcass meeting is sort of like an outing, you know? They email each other, Hey, are you going to the whale carcass next week? But no, and they can't be food. They are food quite a bit, quite a bit too much. And,
yeah, unfortunately.
So there's 144 million sharks of all species that are killed at the hands of human beings every year. Most of them for the shark finning industry that supplies shark fin soup.
Yeah, that is awful.
Yeah, and it's way too many. It's way too many. It's not even a little sustainable. It needs to stop yesterday. And, yeah, so if they were not a vulnerable animal, then sure, you could eat them.
Yeah, there's plenty of sharks out there that are not vulnerable, and they are edible. And I have actually eaten shark. It's been quite a long time, but shark is good, but I don't...
What kind of shark?
It was a black-tip shark that we have a lot of here in Florida.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Very tasty, but I couldn't eat a great white shark. I mean, I couldn't do it.
No.
They're too cool. And
Yeah.
and shark fin soup, you couldn't pay me enough money to even take a taste of shark fin soup.
We could do a whole show. We could do a whole week of shows on the problems with shark fin soup. It's a huge, complex topic. So,
and it would bum everybody out.
Everybody would be so depressed. But suffice it to say, we just wouldn't eat this shark.
Right, exactly.
You could probably eat a dogfish. There's a lot of those.
Is that a type of shark?
Uh-huh.
All right.
You know those little guys, like they're 3 feet long or so? They're kind of always in the sandy shallows. I don't know if there are any in Florida.
Oh, yeah. I think there are some in Florida.
Yeah, those guys are little sharks.
I'll eat one of those.
Yeah.
Sure.
With mayonnaise. On some nice toasted hoagie bread.
Donna?
Yes.
Is your brain a repository of useless information just like mine is?
Yes.
Well, let's help the listeners win that next trivia night, or just sound smarter than the rest of the room, with the Animal Fact of the Week. Now, my little fact of the week is that if you go to an aquarium, you might see sharks, but you'll probably never see a great white. They're hard to catch. In many cases, they're illegal to catch, and they simply just won't eat and thrive in captivity. If you catch something and you put it in a cage, you pretty much have to feed it in order for it to live. And sharks, great white sharks, just refuse to eat. They can't do it.
I wonder why that is. That's so strange.
They just shut down. I don't know. The Monterey Bay Aquarium near San Francisco, they've managed to keep great whites in captivity for like a month or two. The last shark they kept in their aquarium was in 2011. It wasn't doing so good. They released it back into the wild after 2 months of captivity, and it died minutes after being released. And in 2013, the Monterey Bay Aquarium decided that they would no longer collect and display white sharks. And almost a year ago, a Japanese aquarium kept a great white shark, and it lasted 3 days in captivity, and it died. So you just can't keep them in a tank for very long, and that's one of the reasons rehabilitating great white sharks is so hard. Like, you can't, like, if you find an injured one, it's not like you can just scoop it up and put it in a tank and take care of it. And that's also why people really don't know how many great white sharks are actually out there. So that's why they're listed as vulnerable and not, endangered. But still, great white sharks, we don't know how well they're doing.
Yeah, I've read different articles about some different organizations trying to actually get a decent count of them. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
But the news is not good.
Yeah.
There's not that many.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium kind of defended itself a little bit, and they said, well, look, we raised about $4 million for shark conservation awareness. Right. But, if you're killing sharks, I don't know if that's such a great idea. But they're not doing it anymore. No,
and they had to find out. I mean, you can't find out an answer to a question without doing some research and experimentation. And so, there's no question about it that captive sharks help people learn about them, and they help increase awareness of the problems of the sea.
Absolutely.
And so I can definitely see why they would want to do it, at least temporarily, but it's just not even something you can do short term, it sounds like. So
no, not at all.
So that leads into my fact of the week, which is where are the baby great whites? Part of the answer to this question is related to the inability to get accurate numbers on these guys. Almost nothing is known of great white shark reproductive behavior. No one's ever seen one give birth. All we know is that from the examination of shark carcasses, what the babies are like and stuff. We don't know if they date. We don't know if they meet at the whale carcass and decide to go to the movies later. We don't know what they find attractive about each other, if they share hobbies. We don't know. What we do know is that they migrate a lot all over the world, and some of these trips are probably to go make little baby sharks. Male sharks, great white sharks, are fully adult at 23 years of age, and females at around 30. And they can have incredibly long lifespans, up to around 70 years. This is the biggest reason that people need to stop hunting these sharks. They are managing to kill a lot of great whites before they are actually adults and not giving them enough time to make baby sharks. And a species is bound to be in trouble if they can't have babies. This is just a fact.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much why. We adopted a shark a long time ago during the 2000s, probably more than 10 years ago, from an organization called iemania.org. They don't do this program anymore, but they were conducting a research program about great white sharks, and you would adopt one, and that just contributed to the money that they needed for the radio tags and things. But the one that we had adopted was called Pedro, and he was a 6-foot-long great white shark.
Oh, Pedro.
Pedro. And they said he was a baby. So he wasn't a newborn baby, but he was really an infant. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The newborn babies are probably, I would imagine they're probably 3-4 feet long when they're born, if what we know from other species is sort of analogous. But we don't really know anything about how, where they mate, anything. I'm not even sure they know what gestation is or anything. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, hopefully...
They're very hard to study, as you probably found in your research.
Yeah, extremely.
They're extremely difficult to find, and then getting them to stick around so you can watch them is even more difficult. So
Pedro might still be out there swimming around, taking female sharks.
Nothing's happened to him, yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably... He was a really young shark at the time, so we'll say 10 years now. He's not even a grown-up yet.
Taking female sharks over to the whale carcass for a bite.
Yeah, he's dating. He's a teenage shark. He's dating teenage girl sharks.
Don't touch that. That's just like celery. You don't want that. That's like a garnish.
You don't want that. Ew, that's gross. What's that thing on top of the carcass? Get it off.
It's just celery. Pick it off.
Oh my goodness.
Your father and I met at the whale carcass. It was very romantic. That was fun. Do you have anything else for great white sharks this week?
Nope, just they're awesome and everybody needs to learn more about them and should support conservation research whenever you can. If you want to adopt a great white shark, there are many programs across the world that are using that kind of program to fuel their research, so just make a Google search and you'll find other places that are doing it. Because like I said, the place that I did it with isn't doing that research anymore, so...
And everything that we've talked about on the show today, you can find in our show notes at blazingcariboustudios.com/sharks. And you can get links to the articles that we talked about and some of the little video clips and the music and all that good stuff right there at blazingcariboustudios.com.
Yay!
Thanks for listening, everybody. The Varmints podcast is produced by me, Paul Chomo.
And me, Donna Hume. You can find me at tiny_rage and at dystopiatinyrage.myportfolio.com.
With technical support by Matthew Chomo and music by Kevin MacLeod.
Go to blazingcariboustudios.com/varmints for links to the audio and our show notes for today's episode.
We are on Twitter and Instagram at Varmints Podcast, all one word.
varmintspodcast@gmail.com for questions, comments, stories, and suggestions.
And we would love it if you took the time to leave us a nice review on Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever you download your podcasts from. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, be nice to animals.
Be nice to animals.
Be nice.
Be nice to everyone.
You've been listening to a Blazing Caribou Studios production. Support and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Blazing Caribou Studios.
Any one of you lily-livered, bow-legged varmints care to slap leather with me? In case any of you get any ideas, you better know who you're dealing with. I'm the hootin'est, tootin'est, shootin'est, bobtail wildcat in the West. I'm the fastest gun north, south, east, and west of the Pecos. I'm